What's going on YouTube? Examples TCG here, coming at you with a brand new video, and today I'm going to be bringing you guys one of the newest deck profiles for myself. I did a few deck profiles back when I was uploading quite consistently several months ago, but now that I'm back in the game, I'm hoping to bring you guys some more deck profiles, more openings, more duel videos, all that kind of stuff. And the fact that I've actually now got a local tournament in my town makes it a lot easier for me to actually gain access to content, because I can take my setup, I can go to this particular event, I can set up my camera and my camera stand over a feature station, I guess you could say, and actually have feature matches from my locals. I can get deck profiles from the winners and runners up at the locals, and I can also do deck profiles and reports about my experience at locals, what I would change, my matchups, all that kind of stuff. So I'm quite looking forward to all of that. But today I'm just going to bring you guys my first finished deck for the current format. As you can tell, it is a 60 card Lightsworn variant, but it's going to be a 60 card Lightsworn variant I don't think many of you guys have actually seen before. The reason I say this is solely and utterly because it's a variant that I haven't seen myself around before, so maybe you guys haven't seen it, maybe you have. We'll just have to wait and see. But nevertheless, I'm going to get into the deck profile. Now, one thing I will say is I've tried to record this video quite a few times, and it's kind of got on my nerves the amount of times I've had to record it, because the way that I've got my everything set up, I'm actually using my Samsung Galaxy phone to record the videos, and I've got it landscape, so it should be like obviously wider angle, better for viewing on YouTube, all that kind of stuff. But every time I go to edit and render the video, it always goes to portrait, and I don't understand why. So I'm hoping this time around it actually stays the way it should be. But nevertheless, let's get into today's deck profile. So we start off with the boss monster of the deck, which is, or one of the boss monsters of the deck, which is Judgement Dragon. I feel any Lightsworn deck that you do play does require 3 Judgement Dragons, especially now you can actually run 3. So I do feel like 3 is necessary in the deck. It's very helpful to have 3 copies, because sometimes you end up milling 1 or 2 copies, so that 3rd copy is absolutely necessary. And obviously it allows you to blow up the field quite instantaneously, so it's a card that can turn the tide of a duel quite a lot. So I do run 3 copies of JD. I then run 3 copies of Lumen Out, one of the best Lightsworns, if not the best Lightsworn in this deck, bar obviously JD, but he's not technically a Lightsworn monster. But still, 3 copies of Lumina. This card is insane. It can dump dead cards in your hand to for you to be able to summon a level 4 or lower Lightsworn monster from your graveyard. So obviously you could dump a dead wolf, for example, from your hand and then summon something from the graveyard. I think it actually works out, so if you dump that wolf, you can actually special that wolf as well. Not too sure in that ruling, I'd have to clarify that, but I'm pretty sure you're able to do that. But I do run 3 Luminas regardless. It allows you to make quite a few plays going forward in the early game or the late game, depending on how many cards you've already milled into your graveyard. I then run 3 copies of Raiden, one of the best tuners in this deck by a country mile. This guy, obviously you can send 2 cards from the top of your deck to your graveyard. Every Lightsworn monster that you send to your graveyard from that effect means that he gains 200 attack. So he could become a 2100 beta if you have everything go your way. And at the same time, he's a level 4 tuner, which means that it allows you to go into a few synchro plays that you wouldn't normally be able to go through. Obviously, he's also a warrior, which actually helps out with the other side of the deck that I am running, which I'll get to a little bit later on. I then run 3 copies of Wolf. This guy can be very dead if obviously you draw him in your hand. But as I alluded to, you can dump him for Lumina, meaning that he isn't always a dead draw, but you kind of have to have Lumina in your hand to be able to obviously dump the wolf into your graveyard and then be able to make that play. If he is drawn, as I said, he's very dead unless you can drop him for Lumina, so you don't really want to see him in your hand at all. You want to see him going from the deck to the graveyard, hence why I do run a Foolish Burial to drop one of him into the grave as soon as possible, or I'll drop a Felis into the grave depending on what I want to happen in that particular moment. I then run 2 copies of Leila. I was going to run a 3rd copy of Leila. I'm still contemplating running a 3rd copy of Leila, but at the moment I'm running 2. Obviously very good for background removal. If I was going to play 3, I just cut the 1 copy of Celestia that I do run. I've only really got Celestia in here as a 2300 beta for the deck. That's mainly the only source of, or only reason I've got her in here. After playing at locals this weekend, I'll obviously make my decision whether I want to run 3 or 2 and 1 as I'm running right now. But we'll have to wait and see how that all works out when I actually end up playing this deck in like a real dueling environment. And then the last couple of cards for the Lightsworns, I run Felis and Garroth. Obviously Felis is a mini wolf essentially, another tuner which allows you to go into your synchro plays. Obviously it's a level 4 as well, which is very helpful. And then Garroth is just that card that can round off the deck. It is another warrior which also allows you to go into the other part of the deck quite easily, being having obviously Garroth being a level 4. Now I'll explain the other half of the deck right now basically. So obviously that's the Lightsworn engine I run. I then run obviously another engine in the deck which I don't think many people, if anyone, actually runs in the current format, and that is the 6 Sam engine. So I run 3 Cage Moose of the 6 Samurai. Obviously the main tuner for the 6 Sams, he allows you to go into the likes of Beast and Barkion quite easily, because he is an Earth, he is a warrior, and it doesn't matter that he's a warrior, but he's an Earth, meaning that if you have the likes of Kizan or your Alders on the field, you can synchro with this bad boy to get out your Beast and Barkions, so hence why I run 3 copies of him. I then run 3 copies of Kizans. As I said, I just alluded to the fact that you can go from Cage Musa and Kizan into your Barkion. Also with Kizan, he can be special summoned, obviously if you've got another 6 Samurai on your side of the field. And then if you've got 2 or more, he also gains 300 attack from that as well. So he can become a very heavy hitting card. He becomes a 2100 beater, a little bit like the Raidens. Is it Raidens? I can't remember now. Yeah, Raiden's in the Lightsworn area. So this guy is very helpful. As I said, he's very good with Cage Musa to get into your Barkion, and also he's a level 4 warrior, which means you can go into some of your Exceeds from him into obviously the likes of the stuff that I run in the extra deck, which I will go into in a little bit later on. I then run 3 copies of Alder of the 6 Samurai. This is another card that I'm contemplating whether or not to keep him in the deck. The reason I say this is Alder's a mini Cyber Dragon, but at the same time, the only reason he's really in here is number 1, to go in with your Cage Musas to be able to, oh, I just knocked my camera there, I apologise, but go with your Cage Musas to get into your Beast, and at the same time, he can also be used alongside your Cage Musa, I do believe, yeah, alongside your Cage Musa with asceticisms. So that's the only really real reason I've got Alders in here. I feel that they are necessary to actually go into your Beast because you don't have any other level 3 Earth type monsters in your deck to be able to go into Beast. So at least 2 copies is needed. I could drop 1, I guess, and put in the other Leila for, say, the Alder, but I still have to playtest the deck, as I said. Not playtest the deck, but like play it in a real life situation just to make sure I've got the cards right, and if I do need to tinker anything. I then run 2 copies of Kaigeki. Again, this card could potentially be at 3 if I wanted it to. It's only really in here to go into quite explosive special summoning plays at the early game, and at the same time he is another level 3, so if I did run rank 3s, I don't actually run any rank 3s in my extra deck, but if I did, obviously he would help with that. But at the same time, he can special summon stuff, which is quite handy, and while you control another face-up 6 Sam, he also gains 1500 attack, so he can become very handy in certain situations. I then run a lot of one-ofs in the 6 Samurai stuff. I run 1 of the Grandmaster, 1 of Anishi, 1 of Zanji, 1 of Iru, and 1 of Hand. Grandmaster, I don't feel like I need to run any more than 1. You can only have 1 on the board at any one time anyway. Hence why I only run 1 copy of him, and you can special summon him with regards to your 6 Sams, which is quite handy. The other 3, Zanji, Iru, and Anishi, are pretty much the best level 4s in the 6 Samurai build that you can have. If I was running a pure 6 Samurai build, I'd probably have the likes of Spirit over Hand and all that kind of stuff. But as I'm running a Lightsworn Samurai build, I don't feel the need for having a Spirit in the deck, hence why I do have this Hand of the 6 Samurai. I could potentially cut the Hand again for a Leila if I wanted to, or for something different, but at the moment I feel like Hand might be the best option, hence why she is in the deck at this particular moment in time. And then to round off the monsters, I run even 2 Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, and then 2 Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries. Obviously they're both tuners, which can help if you need to use them in that particular regard, but most of the time they are used for their hand trap facility, especially if you're playing not a mirror match, but you're playing a 60 card Lightsworn that runs Curious. If they run Curious, you can obviously use Ghost Reaper to take out Curious from their extra deck, which means they can't go into that. Obviously Ghost Ogre is just very, very handy regardless. If I could run Blossoms, I would run Blossoms, but I don't have the money for them, hence why I run obviously the Ghost Ogre and the Ghost Reaper, rather than say one of each of these and then 2 of Blossoms. But still, that is all of the monsters that I do run in the deck. So onto my spell cards. Most of the spells are pretty self-explanatory for each archetype, but I run 3 copies of Charge the Light Brigade and 3 copies of Solar Recharge. I feel like these are the best spell cards for the Lightsworn stuff. They add a little bit more consistency to the deck. Obviously, Solar Recharge allows you to draw a couple of cards. Charge the Light Brigade allows you to add a level 4 or lower Lightsworn monster from your deck to your hand after sending the top 3 cards from your deck to the graveyard. So both cards can add a little bit more consistency. It allows you to go into your plays. 9 times out of 10 with Charge, I go for Lumen Out, depending on what's in my graveyard. Then obviously Solar Recharge just allows you to draw a few extra cards whilst potentially milling your Felis and your Wolves into your graveyard. I then run 3 copies of Sheer Smoke Signal. This helps me get into my Cage Mooses, my Alders, my Kaigekis, those kind of plays. This particular card is not essential, but very, very helpful in the deck, hence why I run 3 copies. I would potentially cut that down to 2, but I feel like having 3 is the best option in the deck, just because if the others get milled or anything, you actually have something additional that allows you to go into your 6 Samurai stuff. I then run 3 copies of Asceticism and 3 copies of United. Obviously, I've kind of talked about asceticism a little bit. Most of the time, it will be used on my Kaigeki and my Cage Musa and my Elders, just to then be able to go into Beast. But at the same time, I can use it on Kizan even, and I think it's Zanji, obviously to get the 1800s level 4s, go into a rank 4, that kind of stuff. Then United is very handy with regards to adding a little bit more draw power to the deck, because once you obviously get 2 Bushido counters on them, you can take those Bushido counters off, send this card to the graveyard and draw 2 cards, obviously if you have 2 Bushido counters on 6 Samurai United, which is very, very handy. And then one card I'm very, very glad that came back into off the ban list and into limited is Gateway of the Six. Obviously, having more than 1 copy of this card would be very, very overpowered, but I'm glad we have 1 copy regardless. And then to round off the spells, I run 2 copies of Pot of Duality, 1 Monster Reborn, 1 Raigeki, and 1 Foolish Burial. I feel like Pot of Dualities add a little bit more consistency to the deck. It allows you to draw into your plays whilst replenishing the 2 cards that you don't pick regardless. Yes, it can hinder your special summon plays, but 9 times out of 10 I'll only use Pot of Duality if I'm not looking to special summon that turn. Monster Reborn is pretty self-explanatory, just reborn a monster from the grave. Raigeki can clear a board and allow you to set up your plays a little bit easier, and Foolish is normally there for the Wolves to be able to get a 2100 beta out on the board as swiftly and quickly as possible. I then run 2 traps in the form of Solemn Judgment and Double-Edged Sword Technique. Obviously, Solemn Judgment is very handy if you want to negate the activation of a spell or trap, normal summon, flip summon, etc, etc. So that card is pretty self-explanatory. Now, Double-Edged Sword Technique is one of those cards that 9 times out of 10 I will dump into my graveyard for the Lumina effect. But if I do need to use this, it's very handy to go into my Exceed plays, hence why I have a copy in here just in case. 9 times out of 10 I don't actually use it for what it's there for, but at the same time it is handy to have it just in case you do need to end up using that particular card for what it is there for. So onto my extra deck, I ran 4 Link monsters in the form of Curious, Izudao, Deco Talker and Proxy Dragon. I probably butchered the Noble Knight's card name, but if I have, I apologise. But obviously Curious is pretty self-explanatory. It works very, very well with the Lightsworn element in this deck. The 2 Tails of the Noble Knights card works very well with the warriors you play. Obviously, most of the warriors you play are the 6 Sams. I don't know why I forgot what fucking deck I'm playing, but still, I apologise for the language as well, but I forgot what deck I was playing for a split second there, so I apologise about that. And then Deco Talker and Proxy Dragons are pretty much like, not, I wouldn't say staples of the deck or staples of every deck, but most decks I've seen profiled have these two or one of these two cards in their extra deck. So I run 4 Link Monsters just to obviously be able to play a few more extra deck cards, because you need them nowadays to be able to play your extra deck cards. So this, I was about to say the Synchros, the Xyz I run 2 copies of Minerva, 1 copy of Shadow 6 Samurai, 1 copy of Utopia, 1 Utopia Lightning, 1 Tsukiyomi, and 1 Abyss Dweller. Obviously Minerva is pretty self-explanatory alongside Shien. I run Utopia and Utopia Lightning because of the warrior element in the deck, and obviously it just allows you to go into a few more plays in my personal opinion. Tsukiyomi is one of those cards I could potentially change for something else if something else was viable. I could change this for a rank 3 if I wanted to, and then Abyss Dweller is just a very, very good card overall regardless of the format. I am kind of contemplating, after I said that, swapping this out for a rank 3, just because I play quite a few level 3 monsters in the deck. But we'll have to see how it goes at locals before I make any changes in the deck at all. And then to round off the deck, I run 1 copy of Michael, 1 Shien, 1 Beast and 1 Barkion. I've talked about Beast and Barkion quite a bit in this profile already, I feel. Obviously these 2 cards are running pretty much every single 6 Samurai deck around. They're very, very handy. Obviously this bad boy allows you to basically banish 2 cards from your graveyard and stop the activation of a trap card, which can be very, very handy in this format. Shien's pretty self-explanatory. It's a 6 Samurai deck, so why not run him? And Michael just helps with the Lightsworn side of things, should I say. And then Beast is just there because it's Beast. It's a 6 Sam build. Why not run it? But that's everything for this deck, basically, guys. If you have any thoughts or feedback on the deck, please let me know in the comment section down below. I'll be trying to read and reply to as many, if not all, comments as possible. If you guys are interested in gaming and you like the likes of Sea of Thieves, Fortnite, and just gaming in general, I do have a Twitch stream or a Twitch channel where I stream on quite regularly. I'll leave a link to that just in the description down below, so if you want to go and check that out when I am streaming, by all means do so. That'd be greatly appreciated. One other thing I want to briefly talk about at the end of this video is the fact that I will be making a trading card game myself. I did not contemplate, but like briefly explain this when I was uploading videos before. Never really got around to actually making any videos on it or going any further than actually like saying, oh yeah, I'll make my own trading card game. But this time around, I actually want to put a lot of effort and a lot of thought and a lot of time into it. So once I get round to obviously making the rules and the actual card templates, I will obviously bring you guys some videos on that particular game. I'm still looking for some artists to help me with the game, so if you know anyone that's like interested in potentially making a card game and they can draw and all that kind of stuff, I'll be greatly appreciated of that. But nevertheless, guys, thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.